Welcome back to On the Light. Today, I'm honored to speak with Dr. Rajvi Mehta, a senior Iyengar Yoga teacher who began studying with Guruji in 1979. She's been teaching at the Light on Yoga Research Trust in Mumbai since 1987 and is the creator and editor of Yoga Rahasya. In our conversation, Rajvi shares how her family came into the practice of yoga and shares lessons and insights of her decades of study with Guruji. Please enjoy this rich and inspiring episode of On the Light. Hello.
Hey,
How are
so
you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Are you
So
enjoying your time in
yeah,
California?
yeah, I'm enjoying. It's nice to be with Neeta after
Yeah,
a long time.
that's
I,
really
I haven't visited for decades, so I'm
nice.
coming here after a very long time,
Oh, very good.
maybe 25 years or more.
Wow. Okay. So thank you for meeting with me for an interview. Can you tell me how I heard a little bit about it from Nita when I interviewed her, but what is your recollection of coming into Iyengar Yoga?
Well, I started Iyengar Yoga when I must be 11 or 12 or 13. I don't exactly even remember, but I was very young in school,
Hmm.
not even high school. And my father used to be a student of Guruji.
Okay.
And he was interested in yoga, and he incidentally came across. I mean, the story is quite funny in a way. As I recollect, I was very, very small, that one fine day they were driving somewhere with one of our neighbors to some talk, a discourse, and some guy asked for directions. And this was a German guy who wanted to go to the same place. And they started talking. And then he came back a few years later or a few months later saying that he's interested in yoga and he's going to meet the BKS Iyengar. And my father didn't know who he was. But
Hmm.
my father was interested in yoga and he went along. And that's how he started attending Guruji's classes. And within a few years, he obviously felt it was something he was genuinely interested in yoga. And he got Neeta and my brother Birju into the classes.
Hmm.
And a few years later, I was too young then. And a few years later, I would join him on Sunday mornings. Guruji used to come every weekend, Saturday, Sunday to Mumbai for, I believe, from 1953 to 1990s. So this
Okay.
is sometime in the mid 70s that I went along, would just stand there watching the classes. And so I would say my introduction to Guruji happened without seeing him, because when my father joined, and he would afternoon Sunday, he would give a lot of stories,
Hmm.
just not exactly a story time, but while having lunch, and oh, Guruji did this in class and such a student said this, and Guruji adjusted like this, and the Paschimottanasana became, oh, she went, the story. So you sort of created, without seeing Guruji, you had an image about Guruji. And
Hmm.
then subsequently, I observed in the sense I would just tag along and watch a few classes. And then somebody said, "Why don't you attend?" I said, "Oh, I didn't think of it." And so that's how I attended classes. So my memories are first, without meeting him, you created an image from the stories or anecdotes that happened at every week or whenever my father attended classes, because he was very stiff and he would often bunk and say, "I'm not prepared for the class. I need to prepare the whole week to withstand one class." However, he became much more regular when Neeta joined, because Neeta was very strong, and she would say that, people keep asking and it's not right for me. What do I say? Why haven't you come to class? So she was
Oh.
always very disciplined, and, in that sense. So she would force him to come. And that's how he became more regular. But he was always like, it's something we should continue. And somehow, without any force, I mean, there was no force on any of us. But once you joined, it just became a regular thing in life that every Sunday morning you go to class, and it still continues. So the
Hmm.
whole family just leaves early morning and goes. So I think everybody in the neighborhood knew that this whole gang goes to some place, and maybe later they realized. So, except for the month of May when the classes were closed. So that's my memories. I mean, that time I didn't even know what yoga was or what anger yoga was, or possibly
Right.
wasn't even called anger yoga then. So this
Right.
was it. I mean, it was a Sunday to Sunday affair kind of thing,
Uh-huh.
with the residues remaining for a few days, because for years together, every week we would discover different body parts. after 2 days of class, and oh, what is existing here? You felt soreness, you felt excess. So it was discovering different things at different points of time. So
Mm-hmm.
something kept us going. I really don't know. There was no force as such. Guruji wouldn't say anything. I do remember that for first few years, I didn't even feel whether Guruji saw I was existing in class.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. And later, maybe when I showed interest, or maybe he realized I had developed interest. So I can't say I didn't have an interest, because otherwise, why did one go? In teenage years, you don't really do
Right.
things. But possibly it was as routine
Mm-hmm.
for us to attend. I mean, unless there was a genuine reason, which is not, because it's a Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Something kept us going, and that was my introduction. And I
Yeah,
would say for nearly many decades, I had no clue what other yoga is, or there is something beyond or something different from this, because that's
sure.
the only exposure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In
So.
those classes, were there other students your ages, like the teenage years, or was it mainly your
No, it was a mixed class. So there would be people who would be 50, 60, 70. And I used to be there.
family?
Then Neeta was a couple of years older, and she was already practicing she and Birju for another 4, 5 years before me. So they were older, they were also, so they did, except Guruji never really separated us,
Mm-hmm.
like you're a teenager, so you do something different. Except when, after a few years, alternate weeks, Geetaji and Prashantji would come.
Mm-hmm.
So when it would be a pranayam class, Prashantji would ask us to sort of go and do 50 rope works, 50 slow Urdhva Prasarita or backbends and multiples of something. And I would remember that, sometimes after the class, people would say, oh, so relaxing. And I would say, what is relaxing? My whole body is hurting. But that's the time we would do things separately, but that was only on the day of the pranayam class. And then sometimes he would say, okay, join in. Otherwise, not really, we were not segregated. There were a couple of other students also later who were same age group. We would be, the youngsters doing on the side. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, the class was, there's obviously, there were many things. I would say anything that one really understood. If Guruji talked about skin and flesh, it didn't make sense. Because
Sure.
how do you move skin and what is flesh, and you have no maturity, the body is different. But you knew there was something. And
Yeah.
something kept you going even if you didn't understand. And many of the things he must have taught then, and the words remained because you met him week after week after week. So a lot of things just got in, when it's repeated, or uh, you sort of, it just grows with you. And
Mm-hmm.
you understand now after 30 years or something, oh, this is what he was doing. So it just suddenly pops up, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's learning the process, how it went. And
Do you recall any significant moments from those classes or teachings that you received, things you remember learning from him?
many things, because like I said, we literally grew up. It wasn't that you went for a specific period of
Yeah.
time, and it
Yeah.
was a growing up phase. So it was just part of learning for life kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I do recollect very strongly is that being in school, we never really went to Pune. My father would go for the programs, the annual day and Guru Purnima and Guruji's birthday. My father and mother would go. We were too young, and of course, that time it wasn't so easy to travel and school and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember a little later, nearly 10 years, 8 to 10 years later, that I just finished college, and we had a break. No, before that, actually, 2 years before, they were having some intensive or a decenniary or some program. And I applied for it because the rest of the group was applying for it. And I didn't get in, and maybe they said I was too young or something. I don't really recollect, but I was not selected.
Mm-hmm.
And fine, I mean, possibly it was too intense, or maybe for an older group of people. And but later, when I was on a break, and we decided, can we go and stay in Pune? And it was pretty exciting, because here we didn't go at that time. Most of us didn't really go out to study. You stayed at home and you studied in the same city. So it was
Sure.
like going and living and say, okay, we go to Pune. And I remember going there for a week, and we stayed in the institute where the currently the bookstore and all those things are there. So there were rooms for accommodation. Three of us went, and that's the first time I really attended regular classes every day. So Geetaji would teach in the evenings, and Prashantji would teach in the mornings. And
Mhm.
Guruji, of course, would be there during the practice. So
Mhm.
we didn't really, and he would walk in sometimes, something. But I do distinctly remember that we were doing Viprit Dandasan near the storeroom, Devki and myself. And Guruji came and said, "What are you doing?" And he pushed our chins so strongly that
Oh.
it was intense. It
Mhm.
was intense, and but both of us were so thrilled that he noticed us.
Yes.
I remember being very thrilled that, oh, he noticed us kind of after so many years because we attended classes and we came back. You sort of gave your pranams, and that was the only communication or things. And you didn't really talk or chat, or, he directly told you anything. So that
Mhm.
was a big moment. And of course, staying in Pune for a week. And then Guruji came and gave something he was writing and said, "Do you understand this?" So he was writing something for the younger age group. So,
Mhm.
do you understand? What don't you understand? So, it was quite touching for us that he even wanted to see what he's written is understood. I mean, a man of that caliber actually seeing. So, he knocked at the room and gave it. So, it was a big. So, apart that I think was a big shift personally for me to
Mhm.
start, looking at. Because till then it was a Sunday to Sunday activity. Of course, the effects lasted much longer, not
Mhm.
just physically, but I think it did mold one's personality in a great extent. And of course, we had the advantage that the whole family was doing it.
Yes,
You know,
definitely.
my father, my mother, my brother, sisters. So it became like a very common family thing.
Mhm.
So, unknowingly or knowingly, your discussions, life revolved around that. So, that's so. I mean, good. Then he influenced all phases of your life, I would say, in
Mhm.
various many aspects, because you sort of started seeing things differently, and you didn't even know you were seeing things differently. But I feel when I look at other colleagues in my profession and the way they would, I would think, no, maybe it is because of yoga. I mean, I
Mhm.
can't say whether it's yoga or just you or your upbringing or whatever it is. But many of these things, I think, it gave a lot of inner strength, handle things. It's difficult to really explain because it's not like a before after story. You've been with it all nearly all your life. At least 70-80% of your life has been, even if it's once a week. You are
Mhm.
meeting strong personality, and it didn't appear strong at that time, obviously. We didn't really realize how great Guruji was because you got him. It's only when you started seeing, and he was always very accessible. And I mean, he reached out. I'll give you a simple example. In every Saturday, Sunday when we had the class, there was this old gentleman, Madhubai Tijoriwala, who was a couple of months older to Guruji,
Okay.
solicitor, and Guruji used to, they were friends also. And he had this habit of getting a bottle of lime juice for Guruji, because after that, Guruji directly left for Pune, first by train and later by bus. And the bus would take 4.5 to 5 hours.
Okay.
And, so Guruji would immediately have and share it with everybody. It was routine. So
Mhm.
for us, that was very normal. But certain things then get ingrained, how he did things. So it just grew. For example, it would rain heavily in the monsoons in Mumbai, June,
Mhm.
July. Whatever it was, he came. And then you feel that how can you bunk? He's coming all the way from Pune,
Yeah.
and he's older than you. So, the discipline got inculcated that even if he got up and felt lazy, no, how can we? So he didn't say anything. He wouldn't even say whether you've come or not come. I'm sure he knew. Yeah, but I think a lot of things just grew on you because of his presence in your life, kind of. Very short if one says 2 hours a week or 3 hours a week, and later maybe weekends, so 5, 6 hours on an average. But
Mhm.
I think the impact was quite immense.
No,
That's
I
what I feel.
yeah, it's such a special and unique situation for you and your family.
Yeah.
And to you, it was just normal.
Yeah, I guess so because I mean, we didn't realize sometimes people, like Sundays, your friends would want to go on a hike or something, or a picnic or a holiday, and you say, no, no, I can't come. why I
Hmm.
have a yoga class. And in the 70s and 80s, yoga was not a big thing. I mean, you
Right.
did yoga if you were unwell or, old. So they would wonder, but no, no, I can't come. And that was it. I mean, nobody really bothered. Okay, you can't come, or if you want to go, we'll go later. So it was quite normal because I think when I was doing my PhD and we I work in the field of IVF, so we used to have the pickups, and that time things were not programmed, and as luck would have it, most of our cases landed up on weekends. So the doctor I was with, she would say, okay, we'll do it at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock because there was a TV serial she wanted to watch. And I would say, if you start at 11, you will go away. I'll have to work till 5. And or she says, come at 7 in the morning. So I said, no, I have my yoga class. I can't miss it because if I might miss it once, it's going to be routine. So even she adjusted. So I'd say, okay, we'll do it at early morning, 5:36. I'll go to the class, do the by the time things are incubating and come back. So I was very fortunate. Everybody cooperated. I
Hmm.
mean, I think of it now, maybe if I would tell uh, the clinician that, okay, we are going to do things at 5:30 or 6 in the morning because I have to go for a yoga class. I don't know, but things just worked out. They were
Hmm.
cooperative, and I think this went on for over a year. So I think I was just graced, lucky, say whatever. But it was just normal. I don't think ever really thought about it in a something
Right.
extraordinary. It's only later you realize that yes, these were big moments in a way.
In between classes, you might have said this, but in between classes, would you and your siblings practice together?
Not really. We've never really practiced together. I mean, maybe once in a while, but no, we never practiced together at those times. So each one would have a different time. And like I said, for the first few years, I never really practiced at home. And Birju was already studying in the hostel, so he would possibly do something there. So it wasn't really a practice time together ever. Once in a while, odd time or something, you're trying something and then
Hmm.
somebody's helping you, but it wasn't a routine to practice together. No. The time possibly was in the late 80s when we gave a demonstration on Guruji's 70th birthday, and we were a group of 16 to 18 people who decided, actually we were started with a group of about 25 to 30 who decided that we'll give a demonstration in Mumbai to
Hmm.
live music, possibly except for Jawar and Birju, maybe one more person. None of us had ever been on stage ever before, even to give a talk or even to talk to sentences. And we got into this that we'll give a demonstration. And that's the time everybody practiced together, the whole group for months together because, it had to be worthy of presenting to Guruji. It was something where we really practiced hard for many months. And that's the time we didn't even have a hall in Mumbai of our own, so
Hmm.
or belonging to the trust. So we would go to somebody's terrace, somebody's garden, and space is not easy in Mumbai.
Hmm.
Wherever we went, and we practiced, and there was the whole community. I mean, the group did it together. Finally, we were 16 or 18, and each one would come out and say, "Hey, you are not doing properly. This is disturbing it. Your angle is not right." So there was consistently. So there were no issues, and there were a few people, and it was like a group effect. Of course, somebody had a better, like Birju possibly had a better sense of making the formations, choreographing, or Jawar would possibly say, hey, look up at the alignment, and they would come out, but each one would tell each other. So
Hmm.
that's where we got extremely close. We were, because we met, like I said, week after week. But apart from that, that brought the people close. And I think in the end, out of the 16 who were there in 1986, 87, I don't think anybody really left yoga since then. They may be
Hmm.
attending classes or not. They may be much older. We are talking of such a long time, and they would be. But I think it just got a great bonding amongst each other, and we sort of, that's the time we practiced as a group, all of us, and
Hmm.
so that was something very special for us. And it was something where we had no, like I said, not many had given demonstrations or anything. And I think in that time we didn't even think of photography, and we got somebody. We didn't even get t-shirts in India
Hmm.
easily. So it was a big thing to even find proper clothes. Like we wore the bloomers and they said it wouldn't look good on stage. So we needed
Mm.
to get tights. And where do you get tights? They were not available. And then somebody managed to get some t-shirts which were black and white horizontal stripes and leggings borrowed from the wealthier or fancier people who went abroad in those days with those tights. And over there were these red shorts which were like phantom, shorts over leggings and red colored. And Guruji saw that and he said, "What are you all wearing?" And then we realized it's so funny. And then in the horizontal black and white stripes, possibly we look like prison inmates. If we look at it now, and we happily wore that funny costume which we had only created. But it was that fun, and he said the stripes will look very bad on screen, and we had not even thought that far. I
Uh-huh.
think it was a big change, or for each of us who was present there. We can't forget that. At least I can't forget many things which we learned, possibly that practice over the days got into each of us in a big way. I think that's, that the precision of doing, the discipline, what alignment did to us. Although we looked externally, we knew we had to work internally, otherwise it wouldn't be there. And
Mm-hmm.
to perform in front of 800 people, and where people had bought tickets, they
Mm-hmm.
had paid for that event. It was a big thing, I would say, for us at that point, when standing on stage and speaking to words may also have been difficult, because we didn't come from that background where we spoke publicly or something. So I think
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a big thing for the Mumbai community, I would say. Maybe it was there earlier. Maybe I would say from my point of view, in that sense. Because
Mm-hmm.
earlier, obviously, the older generation were there who were with Guruji since the 60s, that entire. So most of us were second generation. Our parents did yoga. So, we were part of it.
Is there a video of that, or do you
Oh
still have?
yeah, there's a video of it. It's there. You can see it, something done,
Okay.
the quality, and you can have a look at our wonderful attire. Maybe you'll recognize a lot of people also.
Was there a time where when you grew closer to Guruji and the Iyengar family, that you would have time together outside of the practice hall?
No, see, when Guruji would come to Mumbai,
Mm-hmm.
Saturday, he would go out. So
Mm-hmm.
some of the senior teachers would take them out. And sometimes they asked us to come along. So they would go to some club so they could sit in an open place,
Mm-hmm.
as kind of, so, just be there in the open grounds or the garden.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they would invite them to their house, Guruji, and we would tag along. And that's the time they started. Very few people had video players. So that point of time, people started getting, some of them had videos of Guruji's practice or teachings or demonstration. Especially, I think it is the which is that very Ann Arbor one, I think, uh, or the UK one, or some of these demonstrations, and then they would invite people to come. So nearly the whole class went to their house, and we just sat and watched the video. So, and Guruji would be there. Sometimes he wouldn't be there. So this is how it just grew on you. So of course, after that, we always went for some functions, and we went for the event. So like I said, the 70th birthday, there was this big program in Pune. So we stayed there, and so I mean, they knew us, kind of thing, obviously, like we would. So that continued right through. So it's just that you got started to meet him a little more frequently outside in the institute, when we went out. And yeah, we would have picnics.
Mm-hmm.
Once a year, the whole group went for 2 3 days to Lonavala,
Uh-huh.
and Guruji would teach there, and he would stay there and eat with all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So it was again something which was normal. I mean, an annual get together of the Mumbai students.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere I just found a photograph where he was teaching us, and I recollect it was a hall, because obviously there were no props. It was some guest house or resort kind, not a very fancy one. It wasn't ever very expensive. It was all very nominal, so everybody could afford. And or maybe I recollect like that from the. So there was some small place, and he would show how to do Urdu Prasarit. No, he would try to do how to do Navasan in that little hall, wall and cupboard, and very innovative. And then I remember he used some broom there between the legs to how to keep the legs together. So there were just two blankets or something. That was the only prop. Even when
Mhm.
we ate out and even in the hall, we didn't have props till 80s. I mean, we just had two, three blankets. Definitely there were no yoga mats because we didn't need it in Mumbai weather. And the halls always had stone flooring, so we didn't slip or anything. So there were
Mhm.
blankets. Later came all the props
Mhm.
because we had a place where they gave us some boxes to put the props. So
Mhm.
yeah, we went for that, and we would, he would sit with us after the class and just, talk. People asked questions, a lot of informal. It wasn't a very big group. It would be 30 people, 30,
Mhm.
40 sometimes. And remember going for walks with him. And
Mhm.
one evening, somebody said, Guruji, I'm taking you to a very nice place. And it was quite dark. And we went there, and there's nothing. And she just sort of, oh, it used to be so nice during the day. And like Guruji is doing this. I mean, it used to be night during the day. Night, what are you going to see? Scenery, you're going to some hills. So,
Uh-huh.
those funny things would happen. But he was
Uh-huh.
always, very nice. It didn't feel he was somebody very, very, you could just talk to him. Anybody could just talk to him very freely. But yes, once in class, you can't do anything. But once outside, very, very nice. In fact, I don't know if Neeta has spoken to you about it. They were recording for Neeta, Birju, my brother, and to Jawar, and I think Firoza. They were recording for a morning show for Doordarshan, national television, a breakfast show, which was something when breakfast TV had just come into Mumbai television. And these four were recording, and Geetaji and Guruji were there, obviously, and these were the models. And one fine day, they had to write the script or something, something, and they said, okay. And Guruji said, okay, we'll come. Where do we sit? Because TV studio wasn't the place or wherever they're doing. And they said, Guruji said, okay, we'll go to their house. And
Mhm.
we were like, they called us. I wasn't a part of it. And oh my God, Guruji is coming home. What do you do? Guruji, Gitaji are coming home. Ours was a very small house. And what do we food? And that was a time of the year where our religion, we didn't eat anything grown underground or even vegetables a week
Mm.
in the year. And so, what do we make for Guruji? And my mother started making things. And when he came in, it felt like home. We didn't feel anything. And obviously, he also felt so comfortable. Neeta was much closer, I would say, because she used to assist Guruji in
Okay.
Mumbai for the weekend, Geetaji and Guruji for long period of time. So Saturday she would go and Sunday Birju would. So she had spent and she would talk much more freely with Guruji because she was helping in the class. So naturally there's more communication.
Mhm.
She had also done an intensive in Pune. She stayed there for a month. So she definitely had much more, I would say, at that time with Guruji.
Mhm.
And I remember that day because we were all, oh my God, where will he sit? And suddenly it dawns on you. But he was so comfortable. So, we didn't feel anything. He didn't make us feel or we realize. Then, of course, he came for Nita's wedding. He came home. So, yeah, we never felt or made us feel. Uh, he made it feel like home for us also. It didn't give us that fear, or I wouldn't say fear, but anxiety. Somebody is coming and as a guest, and such a famous person.
Yeah.
Nothing. He was like,
Put you all at ease.
yeah, everything felt so normal, I would say natural, which
Mhm.
I think now is a big thing when, there were no airs or any such thing. Very, very comfortable it would be.
Did he have a pretty good sense of humor?
Oh, of course,
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, best is you wouldn't even realize that he's joked. But yes, later you would. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he had a very good sense of humor. And
Yeah.
it would be so subtle that if you try to recollect, you may not recollect.
Mhm.
But later you realize it. Yeah, very, very good. I mean, he wasn't a very serious, stern, you
Uh-huh.
know. Yeah, in class, but yes, he could not tolerate anybody being casual
Mhm.
with the subject. You could be anything, but casual about the subject, he would not tolerate. I mean, I think any of them, as even Geeta ji, like you have to be with it. And also in their presence, you had to be 100% in it. There's no way one could deviate or think of something else. Forget mine, they just took over. So one just got totally absorbed in whatever, to whatever capacity, and he could understand individuals' capacities. So if what externally may feel, oh, very good, he could see the effort taken, he could see the depth of the person doing it. So somebody's done a very good pose from my external viewpoint, but he may not appreciate that, but he may appreciate somebody else who's, didn't appear like a good pose. And especially when you're young, all you can see is the physical aspects.
Mm-hmm.
But you could see that he could see far beyond. I mean, that much we understood, even if I didn't understand anything, that he had something where he saw far, far beyond what we could see.
Mm-hmm.
So we would call it like he has X-ray vision for sure. He could see much more than what was visible to the eye or
Uh-huh.
anybody's eye. So, and he could just not see at that point, he could see a lot into the future also. Lot in the sense, not like a astrologer or something like that.
Yes.
But more scientific, because he could see your behavior, your posture, and your structure, and something, and he could sort of foretell what's going to happen in that sense, not just a random thing, oh, you'll be great, or you'll not be great, or you'll no, not something so
Mm-hmm.
superficial, but
Mm-hmm.
he had the vision, deep vision, I would say.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because one fine day he says, "You're fine." I used to be very skinny and something very, very skinny. And my father must have asked something, or I don't recollect. We were just outside the class, and he said, "No, you'll have her eyes are not okay." I said, "What is he talking about? What's wrong with my eyes?" Something.
Mm-hmm.
But later, of course, I was working a lot with microscopy, and I realized like one of the eye was a little weaker than the other, normal. But how did he see it?
Wow.
I mean, and that too, I possibly realized, I mean, I was doing microscopy for 20 years or more, and I realized it like, okay, one eye is little, little weaker, sort of, 20 years later, because, and then I can justify that, when we started, we had monocular microscopes. Later, you had the high-end microscopes when you were working in better labs. But how did he see it? I
Oh,
distinctly remember that.
wow.
So I had not, and I was saying, what is he talking about? You don't say it because you respect him, but in my mind, like, what is Guruji saying? It was his knowledge and his wisdom, which was with his own experience that he could see, you know, and he would also guide. Okay, okay, this is this, do it like this. But sometimes you don't even realize that you follow it, or I don't have a thing kind of. So I think
Mm-hmm.
he definitely had a lot of vision,
Mm-hmm.
lot of, I mean, depth in that sense, practically. Many such incidents we can say. For like
Mm-hmm.
somebody there was and saying his heart is not okay, and this guy is hale and hearty, and then few years later he had a heart attack, young age, in their 30s. So how did he see that? So he could see things. It was for the person to take it and work on it. But normal human nature would be that you don't have a problem, you may not even realize it. You sort of listen to it, and people may leave it for later kind of thing. So I he had many, I would say now, maybe that time I wouldn't have said it, but 10 years, 11 years down, that he had siddhis. He had
Mm-hmm.
those
Oh.
attributes. Yeah, he had some powers in that sense,
Mm-hmm.
which seem like it now, but yeah, he like his vision, his ability to communicate, his diplomacy, his ability to manage things. I mean, if you think, how did he manage such a massive organization? His
Mm-hmm.
tolerance, his compassion, oh my God, like, and so many things which sometimes one feels that maybe 50 years, 100 years down the line, people say, hey, was it the same man? How could he have done so many things objectively? Say, write books and develop this entire subject, the therapy, the philosophy, the art of management, even running. I mean, today, so many people are having their livelihoods with just yoga, just teaching yoga, writing on yoga, making films on yoga, making props, selling books, you name it. I mean, it's an industry like an entrepreneur, so many things. So I'm sure somebody will come at some point of time and say it can't be the same Iyengar.
Yeah.
How can that person know philosophy and medicine or therapy?
Mm-hmm.
There's no link. It can't be the same person. How can that person management? He had not studied. How can he write so many books? Maybe it's somebody else.
Mhm.
Of course, things are documented, but that's I wouldn't be surprised, because
Mhm.
when as time flies, it becomes very difficult to comprehend that the one individual who, without any major support,
Mhm.
just the student support, without marketing, franchising, how could there be so many students across the world?
Right.
People may come that, okay, I'll be a teacher because it's a profession or something, with
Mhm.
nothing, nobody, and total opposition to the way he was doing things. People questioned him. Could people question him in India? How can you teach masses? How
Mhm.
can you teach a group? Yoga is a one is to one thing.
Mhm.
Props. He was humiliated to a great extent all over. When he traveled, also, come on, coming in the 50s and 60s from a country which was considered backward, poor, cause of all the world's problems, things like that, and talk about a subject where colonial legacy made us look down on our own culture. I'm not blaming history, but even as individuals, you said, oh, this was, come on, Sanskrit. We didn't study Sanskrit. I studied French in school. And now I wonder why. Why should I study French?
Yeah.
But that in that era, and that is maybe 30 years before, what could be the situation? And to travel and accept. Yeah. I mean, I know of people telling me, well, he hasn't said it, that when he went to Europe and they was asked not to come down to the restaurant because he was colored. I have heard, and that when he walked from place to place, because people he was working with were very, very affluent. When he went in the early days to teach, not the public classes, people
Mhm.
were extremely affluent, so nobody can even realize
Mhm.
that person doesn't have money for a bus. I mean, when I have everything, I can't imagine. I don't even realize it. And he wouldn't ask, he would walk. So
Yeah.
he underwent a lot when he was questioned at the customs. And, for a long time, I think, the students didn't feel it, but Indians were not welcome. I can surely say that in many parts of the world. I
Mhm.
mean, it's different India now. I mean,
Mhm.
people did go, and I mean, not that they were made to feel different, but we also had our own inhibitions.
Mhm.
Maybe I call it we would possibly have a white skin syndrome, possibly, whatever reasons, history and thing. But in that, to take it so far, it's unbelievable. To
Yes.
think about it, that he was told not to use Sanskrit terms, talk philosophy, and coming from the background that he did, he took up that challenge in UK and taught. And then
Mhm.
people now want to learn Sanskrit. People want to recite. He didn't say it. He's never forced anything on anybody ever. But we follow it. So that imagine the power of a person when nothing is enforced and you want to do it. That is power,
It is.
and it's very rare. Otherwise we throw power. We do things because of a position. I am so and so, so you have to listen to me, and I listen to you, or people listen to me because you are in the position, not who you are. And with
Mhm.
Guruji, that was something, and you think of it in those days when he was nobody, how he must have taken the subject to a language. And I'm not talking the English language, the ability of people to comprehend
Yeah.
to their level and raise them up. I think that is something uh, very astonishing, for a person and his practice. When you read Light on Yoga, the introduction, he had so much depth. But how did he teach it to the people?
Yeah.
He went down to say, okay, spread the leaf, turn the foot out, take your hand down. That brought changes in people.
Mhm.
That made people understand why are people continuing. If you ask a person and the non-professional people, okay, forget the yoga teachers, it's a profession. Why are
Mhm.
you doing? They may have started for something, that reason is forgotten,
Yes.
but they continue for something else. So it's done something to you. And I think that is remarkable that he brought the transformation in people. He's never told anything. I don't think Guruji ever set down rules also. Never. I mean, discipline. He never said if you came late, you just saw him there. How could you be late? You saw him doing things. How could you not do it? And it just grew on you. He was there in the library, there doing his. So I was very fascinated that he never had a backlog of work. How could it be possible? He was attending to seen him dictating 50, 60 letters,
Yes.
writing his books, his practice, his people coming with therapy, with issues, and each one he responded. And he never had a backlog. How
I
did
can't
he do
even
it?
imagine.
It was unbelievable. The more I think of it, I was so like, how? I mean, you're talking of time management. There he was doing it. People talk of inclusivity, big thing, include everybody was included. Did you know we never knew who was in our class? What
Mhm.
that person did. Even today, we don't
Mhm.
know the professional background of a person who's attending class. It's only okay if you go out on an outing and you start chatting, okay, so and so does this, or so and so is such a big person, or so and so. Like I remember in classes in Mumbai, one lady once said, and this is when we started teaching, oh, this is, very difficult time, lot of work, so my back hurts. Okay, she must be doing something. Then I know she's a maid in the house. Was talking of lot of work of sweeping and swapping, and then the other side there was a vice president of a telecom company. Inclusivity, people didn't know, and this was happening in Pune also. The people, maids of the institute, attended the therapy class, possibly still do, the family. So
Mhm.
it was all inclusive. The only things the words were not given. It is an integral part of Iyengar Yoga, getting people together, and it was never done formally, so we didn't even realize it.
Yes.
Going to the level of the student, he did it. So I think it's many of these things which now the world is talking about is ingrained in our system, I would say, or
Mhm.
ingrained in Guruji's teachings, about continuing education. It was always there because how could you teach if you didn't practice? It would be mechanical practice. Which student is going to come to you if I'm going to repeat the same instructions every day after day after day? So naturally, when you teach, you have to practice. And if you are verbal and memorize instructions and speak it, it's not going to affect. So you'll not have students if you're a teacher. So, the whole churning process, learning, absorbing, narrating. So he never stopped people from talking in different languages in that sense. He would say, okay, what you have understood, you speak. In your, not just the language one speaks in, the analogies, the anecdotes, or things like that,
Mhm.
would be related to your background in that sense. So they
Mhm.
were never very strict. So I think that was what was the informal way of learning in a way. So yeah, I think so. This is all which is the whole continuing education program. It was integral part of, I think, most people, the inclusivity part, the ability to respect everybody, which is a big attribute. So if you look in Tree of Yoga, he's talked about various attributes of a teacher, a whole
Mhm.
list of all the C's and D's, I think 2025. And when you sit back and analyze, each thing was there in his classes. Or I would
Mhm.
say all classes of Guruji, Gitaji, Prashantji, we never really saw. And I think there was this family feeling that came in with
Mhm.
the practice, whoever it was, it didn't matter. I mean, it didn't matter which country you were from or which language you spoke or how you looked. There was a strong bonding, I feel, with the presence of Guruji. We were just together. So I think that those are the very strong, when you think back, it was just normal. But when you think back, I think these were the lessons that came into our lives very
Yeah.
subtly, uh, possibly just absorbed it because you were in the environment. Maybe when you think back, like also ensuring that your ego didn't supersede you. So when you start teaching, it's only natural that your ego develops. You have to have that if you're on a platform. But how do you make sure that when you come down, it goes away?
Yes.
So, these things came. So, naturally, it's only normal that you will have an inflated ego when you start teaching. And
Mhm.
especially if you are teaching therapy, not even teaching therapy in the sense somebody's come with a back problem. And if that person has gone to 10 different doctors and has not succeeded in overcoming pain, and then
Mhm.
comes to you and you make them do some standing marichasana and stuff, and that person feels better.
Mhm.
My ego is inflated that I have done what 10 doctors, MDs haven't done. It's so
Right.
ridiculous, and it's very easy to get it into our head. And we think we have done it. We were just tools. It's just like the keyboard thinking that they have done the whole book. We were tools. He's shown it to us. We are repeating it. So that things possibly For us, we were fortunate because you were under them all the time. So there was less scope. It could develop, but obviously when you are in front of him in class, you realize how little you know. So everything gets pushed down, there's no scope of getting a big fat eye. So I think these things become very important, that the essence of yoga comes in. That's what I feel. A lot of learning comes in, and his humility. I mean, we can't forget the day in China when he was teaching Baddha Konasan, and he said on stage, there are hundreds of people there literally looking at him in awe. And he said, I started, we were using blocks for Baddha Konasan, and but the buttocks are rounded, so I have found this chumbal where you can sit. And I remember talking to Raya, and we were like, why is he saying all this? He can just say, use this, it is better. But to say I was so stupid or something on that sense, I didn't know anything, I didn't know this. I mean, at that stature, to say I didn't know,
Yeah.
it was a big lesson. It was shocking. Hey, why is he doing this? But that is the level of uh, the humility that he had. He wasn't showing humility. It was just natural for him to say, okay, this I know, this I don't know. That's it. I mean, so transparent. Where do you find people who are so transparent, who are the same non-dual state in all conditions? So when we see him, it's not like you're seeing him only on stage or in the class. We met him in all conditions, in the house, while traveling. If Birju and Jawar possibly would have much more because they spent a lot of time traveling with him for many years. But other times, just the same. I mean, I've been with him many times because I used to work in Bangalore, to go to Belur with him, sometimes driving down with him, sometimes staying there. I've stayed in, the guest houses and possibly every possible hospital rooms, the school rooms, the guest house, then the hostel, and with the family, entire family. I'm not just talking of Gidaji Prashantji and the family, his sisters, their cousins. And they had those beds and we would be there kind of. There was nothing, he was the same, which is very rare, zero duality. That is yoga. I mean, where you could be the same in all conditions with everybody. Where do you find that? I don't think, we'll have our own mass all the time.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's something which I think these are the attributes, or I don't even have the word to say about Guruji, which we need to learn. We may remember him for the instructions and the methodology. I think that's very small. That's very small about yoga. But the yogi in him, the efficiency with which he worked on all fronts, that is karma sukaushalam, the non-duality, samatvam, all conditions. That is what Guruji has taught. And not that he was cut off. I remember one day he was sitting at Pandu's table on the floor. And, after class, Prashantji's class, we would just pay our respects to him. And he looked, what happened, Guruji? We could talk. So then he said, he looked little, not low, but you could see something in his face, not his usual. He said, my brother died in the morning of chikungunya. And I was like, oh. And that time we didn't even had heard about chikungunya. And you could see that pain.
Yeah.
Obviously his, I think, younger brother who had worked with the Bellu Trust. So it wasn't too long ago. Must be 2010, 8, 10, something at that time. And then you feel that he was also equally close with his family. So it wasn't that such a rounded person. Then, yes, life had to, and he went for practice. And then, of course, but it wasn't that he cut himself off. He was there with everything. So this kind, to me, these are things of Guruji which we need to maybe imbibe. Maybe it came through the practice of yoga, maybe because he was who he was. But even if we have minute traces of that in us, we all would be better human beings. All these things that he did he did it. I don't think he did it for anything. At some point, you realize he didn't do it for anything. He just did it. Maybe that was his dharma. He did it.
I'm so grateful that you're sharing all these things about him.
This is really incredible.
So many things, I remember with Yoga Rahasya one, not to an extent that the magazine went on his name.
Mhm,
Not once. I'll
mhm,
tell you, either of them have told me to include specific things in the magazine. And to think of it that here I am, who has no knowledge of the subject, who is not a writer, who is not an editor, who has no scholarly pursuits of philosophy, have started a magazine and he supports it. Now,
mhm,
when I think back, it was the arrogance of youth or arrogance of ignorance that you could take this up.
mhm.
Absolutely. I mean, and to let you do it, think about it. It went on his name. There were people whom I sent it in the first 2 years, took it because it was Guruji, coming from India. And
And
one
you,
of them says, I don't want to be associated with this. The editing is terrible. And I went to Guruji. I said, Guruji, this is what they're saying. So he said, yeah, it's not good. Agreed. Are they doing anything about it? So that gave me so much confidence that, okay, however bad, you made an effort. And that's how, and only twice, once Geeta ji said that it is Menuhin passed away, I think 97, we should have something about him in Yoga Rahasya. Imagine not even telling you what to do. That kind of freedom, who gives when it's their name? Of course, I did go to them every time and said, this is what I'm doing. That's different, but not that kind of freedom at that level. It's rare. You can imagine a CEO leaving everything today. Tell me in a corporate world, let the people do. It's impossible. I mean, I can't even think of it. Everything is, and it was, how do you explain how this organization worked? It's all emotional connect. Talk about emotional intelligence. This whole Iyengar Yoga fraternity worked on an emotional connect. Rules, everything is incidental. And
mhm,
that is the power he brought in. How? The other time he told me I did an issue on children. And
mhm,
then on the platform, he says, I request the editor to do something on adolescence. And I was all red and embarrassed that he talks like this on platform while releasing, request the editor. I said, Guruji, what are you saying? I mean, request the editor. Yeah. And like, you don't know what to say. And
uh-huh,
once Geeta ji had told once earlier was her mother's 90th. And she said we should write something about her. So imagine in this 30 plus years, they have
mhm,
never dictated or said. Of course, I would go to them all the time. I'm planning this. What should I do? I'm doing this, or I'd like to do this. Sure, they would support, but
mhm,
not directly guide you. So they let you grow in that also. So, which I feel now, it's it's so much of generosity to do it in that sense. And even financially, in the sense, it was such a, I don't know what to call it. Maybe like I just use the word, the arrogance of ignorance or the arrogance of youth. That one fine day, I was sitting in the library. I used to go often and, just look at the magazines around. There were a lot of magazines from all over the world, institutes, associations. I said, Guruji, we should also have something. So he didn't sort of say anything. Again, I said, Guruji, we should have something from India. He said, yes, madam, there are many things we should do. What is important is what is done. And something exactly on those lines. And it hit me, yeah. So I said, okay, we should do something. And I had some time on hand. It was a phase where I just finished my doctorate and I was planning to start work or something like that. So all I did was, and Geetaji was looking for volunteers to transcribe some of Guruji's talks. I
okay.
offered because you're transcribing, so you're listening again and again and you learn more. And I just put them up and I had some basic knowledge of PageMaker because I'd done my thesis and we didn't even have a computer at home. Mumbai Institute didn't exist, so there was no question of computers. And you're talking of 94. I remember going to Zubin's father's chemist shop. He had a chemist shop, and they had this little word star and page maker in the chemist shop where he distributed. And in between, I would go and type and created a booklet with two talks transcribed, folded into a little booklet. And
Mhm,
I went down after I'd finished it. I called it Yoga Darshan, did some graphics with whatever informal knowledge I had about computing or DTP. And I go to a STD booth and I call up Guruji's house. Said, I want to come and meet Guruji. So Geetaji picked up the phone and she says, why? I mean, very, why? Not very, just, okay, you want to come and meet him? Why do you want to come in? It was not a very strong why. I said, no, I've made a magazine and I want to talk to Guruji that we should have a magazine. So she says, okay, magazine. She had not heard about this, and maybe obviously Guruji wouldn't have mentioned something very silly I had said maybe a few months ago. So I said, yeah, Geeta ji. Okay. And how frequent would it be? She's also, listening to me. I said, Geeta ji will do it 4 times a year. Okay, 4 times a year. When would it be? I don't know whether she was serious or I don't know. And this is all in a public telephone booth. And I said, yeah, Geeta ji, we have 4 events, right? So people will come for those events and they'll buy it. So we'll have it Guru Purnima, and then Diwali time will be Patanjali Jayanti. So that will be 3 months apart. And then Guruji's birthday will be too soon, October Diwali. So January annual day. And I came up with this. And she said, okay. She spoke to Guruji, who must have been around in the house, and say, okay, come so and so day, next day or day after. And I go and I take it, that booklet to Guruji. And he sees it. And then he says, Darshana is not a proper name. There is another thing. And I said, okay, Guruji. Then he said, get that Kannada dictionary. And he listed out 10 names. This. And he says, you can call it Rahasya. And that's how Yoga Rahasya started. Then very, very, that booklet, if you see it, then the next thing was, okay, to print it and get a cover done. I'm visually challenged with art, or challenged about art. I can replicate something, but I cannot do art. So how do you do a cover? So we had a student who was an artist, fellow students. Say, Vilu, can you do some artwork? Sure, sure. So she made the cover with Hanuman Jayanti, background, hand art. Then Neeta had a friend whose father had a printing press. I called him, hey, Vijay, I want to do a printing, but I don't have much money. What can we? So he's saying, okay, the cheapest I can do, just the cost of paper. We'll do this. Great. So that's how we came up with the first issue. And we put it out. And Hanuman Jayanti, there are not many students, as say for Guru Purnima, Guruji's birthday. So we said there's this magazine that has come out. And Guruji was there and he put money, seed money sort of. He put 5,000 rupees and they put across a plate and people can put whatever donations they want. And Guruji started putting 5,000 rupees. And then he told me that the magazine should not close down because of lack of money, and don't have advertisements because then they dictate what you should put in. So you have to cut down, if you want to maintain it, your expenses is something which is in your hand. So I didn't even think that far. Honestly speaking, I didn't even think whether money would come. I guess it was, you were so stupid or sometimes innocent, if you don't want to call it stupidity. Didn't even think that far, just thought literally things would. And that's how it started. So we would save money. So I would try to do the layout, whatever I knew myself. And then my sister, Aarti, would go around looking at places where we could get the cheapest positives done, so it wouldn't cost. And our printer would also ensure that the costs were kept at minimal. So that's how it started. And now when we look back, I feel so embarrassed. Oh my God, we did this. We didn't even do a proper spell check or whatever we did. But that was the support. And 3 months I came down to earth, Hanuman Jayanti, Guru Purnima, and Patanjali Jayanti. And we were for an inauguration, and people were said, those who were associated, there were many people associated. Somebody helped with the, proof, somebody helped with looking through it in small capacities. And we had a whole list of names. Most of them said, we don't want to be associated with this. I mean, people started telling Neeta, have you seen this magazine that comes from India? They didn't know we were related. She was already here. And it's quite terrible. And she kept quiet and, she would listen to it. Oh, the English or something. But finally, it came down to me, even if she didn't want to tell me, being nice older sister. And obviously, that time we wouldn't talk as frequently today because of communication, and we didn't have WhatsApp and chat. But obviously, it reached you after three issues, and then I was scared. I said, "What am I doing?" So I went to Guruji. Guruji, I don't think I'm qualified for this, or I am knowledgeable, and what do I do? I mean, and we had not collected much money at that time. He says, are you forcing anybody to buy? I said, no. So, well, if they want, they'll read it. And that support, you can imagine, was tremendous. And then I started thinking, I don't know about others. I am reading it 10 times. I'm learning. I'm doing it for myself. If people want to read it, fine. And that's how it went. And I think after 10 years, 8, 9 years, he said it should not become monotonous. You should have something new. That's the only time he sort of gave me a general advice.
Okay.
So I think to me that was a big thing because otherwise I wouldn't have read Guruji as much as I did or interact with Guruji. So,
Ah,
you kept going to Pune frequently. So often I would go couple of days just to talk to him, interview him, uh, with all the questions and many, many things, or spend time in the library getting material. So I think that was a huge thing for me, it just happened. And then it was nice to feel that people started suggesting that they wanted to contribute articles for Yoga Rahasya, and many associations reproduced articles from Yoga Rahasya. So what started as looking at other countries doing it,
oh yeah.
it still goes on. But thinking of it, how a person, both all of them, especially Guruji and Gita ji, actually permitted, if you think of it.
What year was that when it came out?
The first one was 94, Hanuman Jayanti 94, so April 1994. Very silently, people unrelated. I remember my printer Vijay telling me, he did it till the pandemic, till he passed away. And he would say, the whole world benefits from yoga. I'm the only one who gets blood pressure because of yoga, because he's the last person in the queue who has to print. And since we had decided on these specific days, so
Mhm.
it wasn't a month of April that I gave it on 1st April or 15th April, it was Guru Purnima. Had to get copies ready. So till the very end, and he gave us the copies on time, and there were, and sometimes I would be so late. I say, "You are giving me a lot of blood pressure. All your yoga is giving me blood pressure. I don't know about the world; they may benefit." But everybody cooperated, and not even say that. I think everybody felt it was their personal thing. So it's still very small in that, like, to send before the associations took over of distributing it. We would
Mhm.
sit on a Sunday morning after class, and the students would sit and stick labels on the envelopes. And
Mhm.
one of them was actually possibly one of the directors of one of the biggest paint companies in the world. Later, somewhere in the Forbes or something, is possibly the 37th richest Indian in India. And he's sitting there Sunday morning, sticking labels on envelopes quietly. So it has always been a fun thing. That was very unique, and I think very precious, simple things which sort of made you shape life, or I don't know. Or maybe it's just normal again, I would say very natural with the way things work. I still feel it's thanks to this that I read much more, studied much more,
Huh,
interacted much more,
huh.
or learned much more. Others get it is incidental, but it was primarily, I would say, a very selfish motive of mine where it started. I mean, I didn't even realize, honestly speaking, it was something very impetuous at that time. If somebody asks me a question, why did you do this? I really don't know. I mean, this is the narration, like, but why did I want to, and why did I? Of course, later it became a responsibility because people were looking at it very seriously, every word in there. So then it became much more a responsibility. But for a long time, I really don't know. If you honestly ask me, maybe it was just a means to keep telling people about what's Guruji is saying. That's all. And I still don't know whether it's really creating an impact on people, or whether it's helping people or not helping people. But yeah, it's a means to sort of reach out to the entire community across. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe at least 5 years, 10 years back. Yes, definitely. Today, things are different. The whole communication system is different.
Mhm.
So I don't know about it today, but surely it was a means of reaching out a lot of messages or a lot of learnings from Guruji and the students, of course, experiences of people. So yeah, so a lot of people, I mean, even with Yoga Rahasya, every cover or every years, there are students who do it. So it's not at all professionally done, I would say. People just volunteer happily, do it. And we don't even think of them like they're doing something to, it's so easy. It's like, they say, okay, we would like to do it, and say, okay, can you do it? And then some people you just gel. So many people have designed covers. Some, I mean, students. There was this one person who I later got to know, an American, who incidentally I got in touch, who was studying yoga from Light on Yoga. He was uh, speech impaired or hearing impaired or something. And he did some fantastic covers. And I just wrote to him, hey, you're an artist. And then I realized that his art is selling for millions.
Oh my goodness.
He does murals and stuff, massive. Say, oh God. And they did it.
Mhm.
Nobody's paid anything.
Mhm.
So, some very big time artist, I believe. So, it's like I said, I'm not much into art, but yeah, you appreciate something looks nice. And
Yes.
so, I didn't even, like, so I've had a lot of people like that. So, I think it's just Guruji's aura that, or, everybody has got something from his
Mhm.
teachings, whether it is direct, indirect, or the book.
Mhm.
And, they're very happy to contribute in whatever way. Or I don't possibly you don't even look at it as a contribution. You just do it kind of thing.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, that's the way I look at it, I feel.
What advice would you give to new teachers to keep Guruji's legacy alive?
I think Guruji is Guruji,
Mhm.
comes once in not lifetimes, many lifetimes.
Mhm.
So I think the message would be what simple message that Gita ji, Guruji, teach what you know.
Mhm.
Do not try to impress people. If we
Mhm.
try to impress people, we are moving away from yoga because I am trying to impress upon you. So I am getting into the realm of duality and I'm moving away from yoga. So if
Mhm.
I'm honest to teach, however simple, I don't have to create something.
Mhm.
That's, I think, teach what you have experienced, not verbal. What Guruji would often say, no mechanical teaching or no mechanical practice, because then it's not yoga.
Mhm.
And give more than what you receive.
Mhm.
He never told us to teach for free, even he would say, but give more than you receive. So when a person goes back, they feel they've got much more than what they've paid for, whatever it is. So
Mhm.
I think that's,
Mhm.
and we shouldn't really make it an academic subject or as teachers go for the certification levels,
Mhm.
because just for that, okay, I have this, I want this, I've done my graduation or done my high school, and I become a graduate, postgraduate, doctorate, postdoctoral. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Those are for the others. I mean, does it really matter if you what level you have? It's for the others to know that they are in safe hands.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like somebody comes and okay, they are level X. So yes, they are in somebody who is genuinely following a particular tradition. But beyond that, I don't think it really makes a difference. So does
Mhm.
Gita ji have a certificate? No. So I think it's more that is for outsiders. It's totally, but for us, I think we just need to be honest with ourselves and just learn from Guruji's life, which is far beyond the methodologies and techniques or, like Prashantji keeps saying of Iyengar Yoga and Iyengar's Yoga.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
feel, I tell him it's all the same, except that Iyengar's Yoga was at the peak and we are at the bottom and we think we are at the peak.
Mhm.
We are in a pyramid and all of us are doing Iyengar yoga and we are at the base and we feel. But Guruji also did the Iyengar yoga, but he's, gone to the peak of the pyramid. And
Mhm.
it's time we realize that we don't remain at the base of thing and we continue that what we realize, what we know is minuscule compared to what is to be known and, continue on that realm. And I think that's what it is, and be very cautious that our as we go, that we take care that our I doesn't become bigger and thicker and fatter, the
Mhm.
capital I or ego, because that's the sure beginning of the end of yoga. And where aham akar becomes ahamkar,
Mhm.
what Guruji said, it's the I-ness which will become ego, and then that is possibly something which will take us away from Guruji's teachings. So I think so. Rest are all the tools, means, whatever
Mhm.
methodology we can define Iyengar Yoga as practice, precision, alignment, sequencing, timing, props. These are tools, but that is not it. They're just a part of the whole evolution process. So they are very important to articulate for the others who do not know, but I think it's imbibing them through our own learning. That's what I feel. So I think teaching for the just as a commercial professional, one has to be very cautious. It's very easy to fall. That's why Guruji always talked to us about abhyasa and vairagya. Because abhyasa, practice, would develop ego because you achieve something, whether it's a pose or students or appreciation, it's going to lead to that. So along with it has to be vairagya. So you renunciate that because otherwise there is going to be a peak and a fall. So same time you should have the ability where Guruji would be something on stage and out of stage different, or what would appear different, the commonality that he brought with people. That's how he connected with people. How did he connect with the world? I mean, he didn't have a diplomatic position, but I think he was the greatest diplomat in the world. Bringing communities together which were totally different. How did he do that? Come to think of it, where the best people, experts cannot. He brought us entire people on the same platform. And one can say that happens in professional meetings, if it's a meeting of engineers or doctors. But do you see that closeness in a professional meeting? You're there to think. I think maybe here also you can say you come to a meeting to get something, but there was a closeness when we would meet. At least that's what I felt. So that these are the many of the traits which we can study, absorb, and let them grow into us along as being teachers. That's what I can say.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rajvi.
Thank you for listening to this episode of On the Light. Today, I want to close by reading to you a paragraph from page 146 of The Tree of Yoga, where Guruji writes on teachers and teaching. Here he says, "The requisites of a teacher are many, but I would like to give a few words for you all to catch, understand, and work on. Later you can discover many more. The teacher should be clear, clever, confident, challenging, caring, cautious, constructive, courageous, comprehending, creative, completely devoted and dedicated to knowing the subject, considerate, conscientious, critical, committed, cheerful, chaste, and calm. Teachers must be strong and positive in their approach. They must be affirmative to create confidence in the pupils and negative within themselves so that they can reflect critically on their own practice and attitudes. Teachers must always be learning. They will learn from their pupils and must have the humility to tell them that they are still learning their art." That's all for today. Thank you for listening. Namaskar.